In this series of lectures, we are going to focus on how cannabis concentrates are processed after the extraction is complete. So we're going to focus on this part right here, highlighted in blue. And we're going to talk about winterization, decarboxylation, distillation, and crystallization. And focus on each one individually. And so once we have our plant material, whether it's frozen, fresh, or if it's cured and dried, we can extract the cannabis flower and plant material, the stems and leaves, to have either a product where we've removed our solvent or it's still present. And so even in the product that has the solvent removed by either distillation or rotary evaporation, or if it's the type of product that the solvent becomes a gas and is removed just by letting it purge, we'll still have trace amounts of solvent. The compounds that are going to be common to our extract, regardless of the solvents that we use, is they will all have cannabinoids in it and terpenes. It's possible that there are going to actually be different profiles for these, that some of our extraction techniques might produce more terpenes in our extract than others. And then they're also going to have a variety of other compounds, and the amount of them will depend on the length of the extraction process, but also the solvent and the temperature used. These are going to be things like our fats and our waxes, chlorophyll, and that's going to be the chlorophyll will give it a green color if it's looking at very green. Otherwise, it'll look more like yellow or golden. But there'll also be different amounts depending on your extraction technique of flavonoids, especially if you are extracting out into ethanol. And these might be things like phenolic acids. They might be flavonoids or glycosides, which are flavonoids that are attached to sugars. And so in our actual extract, we don't have just THC and a few terpenes or THC and CBD. In general, when we are creating an extract, we are hoping to keep as many of the cannabinoids and the terpenes as we possibly can. But we do want to separate it from the other compounds, especially if the trace solvent that is around is something like butane, which could be toxic. And also getting rid of fats and waxes is really good for our lung health. And also the flavonoids can really change the flavor of it. And so most extracts will undergo further processing before they become a cannabis concentrate product that is sold on the market. There are a few methods where we don't process any further than just the extraction process. Tinctures is one of those. A tincture will be sold with the solvent intact, an ethanol tincture or glycerin tincture. And it'll also have a lot of water as the solvent as well. And so those ones will just go directly to market. But everything else, especially if we're looking at many of the capsules, many of the different cartridges or different concentrate products that you can buy to add to things like dabs or to joints or to even vapes or vaporizers, we'll all need to go through one or more of these 4 processes we've listed. And so let's walk through what they are, and then we'll go through each one in more detail. Winterization is the process of using very low temperatures, like below minus 30 Celsius, to freeze out large molecules like fats and waxes and polar compounds like chlorophyll or the flavonoids, and then separate by filtration or skimming off the frozen products the cannabinoids and the terpenes from as much of the other other products as you can to further concentrate it. Decarboxylation is a process where we heat either the concentrate, or you can do this with just the actual flower too, at really low temperatures. And when you do this, you actually convert the carboxylic acid version of THC or CBD or CBG or CBN from the carboxylate to just the uncarboxylated compound. So that converts something like THCA into THC. It's removing a carbon and 2 oxygens just by heating. And this converts THCA, which is not very psychoactive, into THC, which users will have a much more pronounced effect from. Next, there's distillation. So this is a process where we separate and isolate different compounds that are in any sort of mixture. And so when we do this with a cannabis concentrate, we're doing it to separate and isolate out cannabinoids and terpenes. And so typically a distillation will either just remove something that's unwanted, like let's say ethanol, or it will remove and isolate individual components like THCA, CBDA, and then the different terpenes of the compound. This is going to use low pressure or heat to boil essentially our compounds to separate them. And then lastly, we'll talk about recrystallization. That's the process of isolating a compound by converting it from a liquid in a solution into a solid that's isolated, that could be filtered and isolated from the rest of the solution. And crystallizations are used to isolate CBDA and THCA from other compounds like terpenes in a mixture. And so we'll walk through each of these individually to get a picture of what different types of processing might look like on an industrial scale as we're extracting cannabis from plants or extracting cannabis plants to get a concentrate product.